From the Wayne County Courthouse in Goldsboro, North Carolina, Wayne Goldsboro Television brings you the meeting of the Wayne County Board of Commissioners. The meeting begins shortly with an agenda briefing, then the regular meeting will begin soon after. Please stand by for the Wayne County Board of Commissioners meeting.
Call to order our agenda meeting, December the 5th. We need to go through our agenda this morning, and then at 8:30 we're going to have this property tax appeal. The invocation this morning will be by Commissioner Ray Mayo, Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Wayne Aycock. The property tax appeal, can you give us an overview of what we're going to be doing at that point? Have we got attorneys coming in on this?
Not yet, Sue. No.
No. That's a good idea.
Your lawyer comes out with this one.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. There will be an appeal before you today about from High Water Solar LLC, and basically what's in question is the equipment they listed this year. It was not in production January 1st, so it's our opinion and the opinion of the Department of Revenue that it's taxed at 100%. They did not get the 80% reduction in that equipment. And I don't know that, I talked to Mr. Chuck Neely, who's their attorney. I don't think he will be here. He has a letter, I think you have in your packet, he wrote to the board to explain his position.
And is our opinion, and that is that equipment that is in place as of January the 1st will be taxed at 100% because it's not in operation.
Correct.
Is
Yes,
that correct?
Any business, personal property, if you own a business in Wayne County, you list your assets, your depreciable assets, and they're broken down in categories such as computer equipment, furniture, fixtures like your desk and stuff like that, and then machinery and equipment. There's also a category called CIP. It's called construction in progress.
Right.
That's the catch-all for stuff that's on site but not in production yet.
Right.
And that's where they listed this equipment because it was not in production yet. And again, it's our opinion and the Department of Revenue's opinion that this equipment is taxed at 100% and it's not a depreciable asset as of this time or in production. And so, so therefore, it is not entitled to the 80% reduction that is allowed statutorily to solar equipment.
Okay, anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
After we complete that property tax appeal, then at that point, the oath of office will be administered by our clerk. Are we all going to be taking the oath at the same time?
You are.
Okay, so we'll have one oath for
We'll
everyone.
have one oath.
Good,
You will
okay.
have to say
And you're gonna read it all, and we're gonna just say, "I do" or "I will."
That's fine.
Is that correct?
I hope so.
Okay. So, do we say "I do" or do we say "I will"?
You will say, I do.
Okay,
In fact, if I hope so.
just like we're getting married, huh? Okay.
Well, you gotta bring a source of it.
You're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay. After we do that, then there will be an organizational where County Attorney Borden Parker will in fact be presiding. There will be an election of the chairman. Once we have the election of the chairman, then at that point the chair will then hold the election of vice chair. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then we'll have the approval of the minutes of November the 15th, discussion and adjustment of agenda. Is there any adjustments to our agenda?
The only thing we need to do is add the NCACC December 16 video update at the end.
Is to add that at the end, right after new business.
New business.
Item 5. All right. Special recognition at that point, we will have the presentation of employee service pins. Then public comments are going to be at 9:15, and all of this will be handled by the new chairman. At 9:30 a.m., there will be a public hearing to receive public comments on the proposed special events ordinance for Wayne County. Once that public hearing takes place, the action may be taken by the board if it decides to take action. And if the special events ordinance is adopted, then there needs to be a motion to approve the amendment to the 16-17 county budget incorporating the special events ordinance fees.
That's correct.
And all of those are on page 74 and 75, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, then the chairman is going to recess the Wayne County Board of Commissioners meeting and convene the Wayne County Board of Adjustment meeting. Then we're going to have to take another oath of office to the Wayne County Board of Adjustment.
You'll say I do again.
All right?
Is that Beckon?
Do we have to divorce ours the way we have? Moving on. At 9:30 a.m., the Wayne County Board of Adjustments will have a public hearing to receive public comments on a special use permit for proposed Hood Solar Farm LLC on Mark Edwards Road. Now, action may be taken after the public hearing if the Board of Adjustment decides it wants to take action. Can you give us an update on that?
Morning.
Good morning.
Yes, this is the Hood Solar Farm LLC. It's at 1185 Mark Edwards Road. We do have, it is a 5-megawatt facility at the intersections of Mark Edwards and Hood Swamp Road. It's approximately on 38.1 acres. It is on 2 parcels of land intersected by Mark Edwards. Would be connected to the Duke Progress Energy site. This solar farm is owned by Theodosia Proctor. ESA Management Services is the developer. They've done several solar farms with us so far. This is within the New Hope Fire Department, EMS Station 5. There's no watersheds present. Voluntary ag districts, no. Wetlands, no. It is within Commissioner's District 5. This property does have an area of blue line or regulated ditches that runs through it. It's got a 50-foot riparian buffer, and that section lies outside of the solar facility. So they're not encroaching into that area at all. As supporting evidence, I've presented to you a site plan, special use permit application, the ground lease agreement with the owner, property owner, interconnection request to Duke Progress Energy, the decommissioning plan. This has been before Seymour Johnson Air Force Base for review, and it doesn't present any problems. It meets all, it's compatible with all of their uses. There's no glare hazards, and there is some documentation on the regulated ditches. This went before the Wayne County Planning Board, and it was recommended to be approved.
I got word the other day that there was an individual that was trying to get a solar farm on his property and could not get Duke Power to agree for the connection. On this particular one, have they already agreed for the connection?
Yes.
They have, okay.
Yes. When it gets to this stage, that's already in place.
Okay.
And there's lots of variables in applying.
I was a little surprised to hear that Duke could not accept a solar facility if it was.
Depends on the load on a particular circuit as to how many solar farms and the size of the wiring that's on the power lines. There's lots of different variables. There is one thing, we advertise this for public hearing for the Board of Adjustments, and we had one issue of an access to a rear piece of property. It's this piece of property right here. So they have revised their site plan and fenced in a access easement to remain there. So that is something that was in place for access of farm equipment, and we don't really know about that unless somebody comes forward.
Sure.
But they've left that in place. So I do have a revised site plan if you'd like to see it. It's just a minor revision. It doesn't require it to go back to the board for any review.
Okay. I went through rather hastily in regards to the special events ordinance. Let me go back to that while you're there
All right.
and give us an update on that.
It was advertised, and I have so far not received any comments, written or by phone, so no feedback on it really.
And in a nutshell, the reason for the special events ordinance?
Well, the special events ordinance is an ordinance that regulates activities that would occur outside of a building that doesn't have a regulated or regular emergency operations plan in place filed with the county. It would be for events greater than 500 persons, it gives the county an opportunity to look at the event and see if there's any additional need for a fire service or EMS service or police service, and to make arrangements beforehand instead of as the event is occurring. It gives the county the chance to pre-plan for that event.
And with the fees, those fees are in place in order to offset the cost to the county for
That is
those services?
Correct. That is correct. There's a fee schedule in place. If those additional services are needed, then that is set, and it can be adjusted year to year. It's be part of their budget, financial budget.
The levels on those fees, remind me where they came from and how much. They're based
I
on-
couldn't tell you that because that came from Mel Powers.
Where it came from is, we use the $20 per hour, that's what we use
Okay.
with our deputy sheriffs, so that was the personnel part. On the equipment part, we used what FEMA's reimbursement rates are.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, one other thing, we did add, a section here, added one exclusion to the ordinance since we went over it with you. Get to it.
It's on page 69, top.
Yes.
Page 69?
Under the exemptions, we added a number 5. It says gatherings sponsored by recognized political parties or candidates. However, notice of such gatherings must be given at least 4 days in advance to the Wayne County Planning Department so that it may inform those agencies listed in section 4703, subsection D. And that was added. That's page 69 at the very top of the page.
So in case Trump wants to come, we're going to exclude him?
Actually, and it's, if you adopt it that way, you're following what you do for political parties using the courtroom #1 for the conventions without a charge.
Right.
But you just ask them to give them notice because I think the rally that President-elect had over in Johnson County was on a 2-lane road and they needed a lot of law enforcement officers to get traffic directed. And that was the reason that this was added.
And that allows, just like planning for that event, it would allow, DOT a chance to review that permit. Basically, once they submit an application, they have 7 days to review it and get comments back to them.
It would not prohibit, it would not prohibit any such political rally. It would just give the county notice of
Right.
be able to prepare.
Commissioner Mayor?
Chip, if you would refresh my memory, this was done by a special, a working group or a committee?
Yes.
And I'm trying to remember, I thought I saw a list somewhere who was on this. Is anyone?
Well, there was a couple of county commissioners, several department heads, staff members, and a couple of people from the public,
Okay,
And the county manager?
and the county manager and the assistant county manager at the time.
okay.
And once it was drafted, it was then sent to the county attorney and to the sheriff for their input on this. Is that correct?
On this particular one, it wasn't sent to the sheriff. It was sent to the Office of Emergency Services for their review, yeah.
So
And it's
I'm
been in the
assuming-
works about a year.
So I'm assuming that there was a unanimous decision as far as,
Oh, yes, it's been through several, this is about the 4th version of it
okay.
that's been prepared
Okay.
and worked on.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Okay. Commissioner Adams?
Mr. Parker, I feel like that I need to excuse myself from this since it may be a conflict of interest with me. What's your opinion?
I really don't think, unless it's going to cost you personally money or give you money with a substantial amount, I do not think you would have to recuse yourself.
Well, it's going to be the opposite of that. It's going to be taking money from me instead of giving money to me. Okay.
And the only questions that I had after the paper reported it yesterday was people wondering whether it was a way to try to get money, increase your your money through fees as opposed to is the county making money? And I assured everybody that asked me that this was just trying to cover the costs that you had. It was not a money-making project.
And, you know, some applications, if somebody applies for a permit, there may be a case where there's no additional services needed. I mean, that would be up to the review. So, it would have an opportunity for the county to pre-plan for those events.
One more question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
How are you going to enforce this ordinance?
We have to make application to the planning department, and then
I know, but John Doe sitting out here in Timbuktu may not know that he's even got to
Right.
apply for a permit.
well, the county manager, myself, or the emergency services director can let them know that they are supposed to have a permit in place. And there is a penalty, in the penalty section for not complying with the ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, just one other.
Commissioner Mann?
Some of the feedback that I have from some of the citizens is that, they feel like that this cost, these fees, that they're actually already paying them through their taxes. And I didn't know if the working group or the board that was looking at this obviously considered that.
I think the working group did consider that. That's just you know, if you're considering, when you pay your taxes, if you're having an event that would put a considerable drain on local resources and don't worry about the money, but maybe worry about the safety and protection of other persons in the county. If one person was having an event and you had all your deputies at one location in the county where the rest of the county is left unprotected, so to speak, or we don't have enough EMS trucks to cover the rest of the county.
Right.
It gives the county a chance to make sure that that doesn't occur without having to go into an emergency mode and call in additional staff on the spot. So it's kind of determining whether that's put in place and a way to pay for those services.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Farmer?
since we've taken a moment to editorialize about fees, I would like to state my position on that. I feel like once we've paid our property taxes, we need to take a close look as to how we put user fees of any kind in. Because actually, once we've paid our taxes and the taxpayers pay the salary of the people who are working in the offices, that means they've already been paid one time to handle permits for houses, septic tanks, electricity, and all the other stuff. So quite frankly, I believe, and I always have believed, that we were charged twice after we paid our property taxes. Now, you say, well, what about folk who do not own property? Just with the great ability to sort and select those that may not have already paid property taxes, that's another issue. But I say this for the benefit of all property taxpayers. There's a good chance, if you look at it close enough, property taxpayers have already paid, so they're paying twice. And this might be a distant first cousin of what Mr. Mayo was talking about, but it's still paying twice as far as I see. Thank you.
You always have the option of not approving the cost, the fees. You can adopt the ordinance and plan to not charge for the additional fees. It still gives the county the opportunity to pre-plan, which is the most important part of it for those events.
Are we gonna ask some more detailed questions now or just during the meeting?
Well, it's your pleasure. I mean, you can ask now or wait until we actually have.
I'll just have a couple, three, I'll wait to meet, but just to kind of come behind Mr. Cromartie here on the charging. For the most part, the way I read this, the ones we'll be permitting and charging fees for are for profits, basically, for a company to come in and do a demonstration of whatever water, ATVs, whatever it is. They're there for profits and they're charging a gate admission. So we don't need to impact our services at the last minute and have to call in additional help when additional help may not be there. Then we'd have to take our frontline services and put out there. So that's the reason for the charge, so we can pre-plan in advance of these functions.
I think you're gonna be a gentleman of a few words today.
Yeah.
All right, I think that gives us enough input, but actually at the public hearing, we can take action or just simply not take any action on that, for further study. Okay, we are reconvening the Wayne County Board of Commissioners meeting. Under unfinished business, we've got several items here. First item is the disposition of Duke Energy grant for 3-plug electric vehicle charging stations.
We originally applied for this grant, and we were going after the max, which was $50,000. What they awarded us was $15,000, which is more than they did for most places. Most of them got about 10. I asked Chip to look into the pricing in more depth. And what we've come up with is that we can, first of all, they said stations. And what he confirmed with them is they really meant to say port. The difference is a station can have 2 ports. And the port is what plugs into the vehicle and actually charges it up. So the stations would have been more, but if you get different types of ports, then you can cut the cost. So the bottom line is what we came up with is a dual port station would cost $6,639, and a single port would cost $4,659. That would be cheaper to use one dual and one single port. So we're recommending that you authorize one dual port at the Maxwell Regional Agricultural Convention Center and one single port station at Wayne Community College, and that leaves $3,702 for the electrical work, which we think will be more than enough to hook them up. So with that additional information, we're recommending that you go forward with it. Now, there is a $280 per port fee annually, or $840, but we believe that the profits off of the system should pay for that, because people will have to pay us to use these charging stations, which will cover the electricity, but also some cost for us to help offset this fee.
Okay, any questions on that?
Just a quick question. Can somebody answer, is there an actual need for, how great is the need at this point? Or is this something that's going to be possibly coming up in the future?
Well, there's some electric vehicles out there. Most of them today, there aren't many in the public, so most of them are having to put it in their garage. But obviously the people who are pushing electric vehicles realize that if they're going to be successful, they're going to have public charging stations, because if you're out of town and the range on this thing is 80 miles or something, you can't get back home.
Does the county have any electric vehicle?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
The college has got one.
Thank you.
But with that in mind, of course, this is a grant through Duke
Yeah.
to cover this.
Yeah, it is.
So the good news is we're really not spending any money on it.
Right.
It's actually all through. the
And that's why Duke is subsidizing it. They want to try
Yeah.
to push the electric vehicle.
And I was going
Yeah.
to follow up on that, and we thought it was going to cost us some money to do this, and I said, I ain't going to do it if it's going to cost us money.
Well, I
But
agree
then
with that.
we discovered, no, in fact, it will not
Right.
cost us money. And if we're not able to cover the annual fees, we can get out of it with no cost.
Right.
Commissioner Acott.
Yeah, I mean, with this facility, the magnitude that we're gonna have out there, I just feel like we'd be shooting ourselves in the foot not to go ahead and do it, because,
Exactly.
you know, this electric thing may play out in a few years, but right now, it doesn't look that way. I just think that, you know, we're spending this much money, you know, another $15,000 is not even gonna come out of our pocket. I can't see how we can not put them in.
All right, next item,
If I could, I just wanted to mention that when we applied, we put in for one in downtown also, but we're making the recommendation to you that we not do the one downtown, because you've got to have a dual one to make it work. And so we felt the dual one should be at Maxwell. The single would be next door to community college, And the thinking there was that if people are going to events there, they're going to class or whatever at the college, they're more likely to be there for the 3-hour period to charge it up rather than downtown. And as y'all know, parking is already limited in our downtown parking here around the courthouse, and that was the location. Furthermore, the city got $10,000, and so they'll be doing some in the downtown area. I don't know where they'll be, but point is, the downtown area will be covered by the city.
All right, we got 5 minutes to get through all the rest of this, so we'll try, let's limit our discussion if we can. Okay, motion to approve revised Spring Forest preliminary subdivision plat. This came before us last time, and we basically sent it back for further study.
Yes, sir. Yeah, this is a little revision. I was in error in talking to you. Originally, this plat was reviewed by Mr. Price. It went to the planning board, and Mr. Price took it to the planning board, and they approved it. Somewhere in the discussions, Mr. Price required or requested a access easement for emergency vehicles down at the inner end of the Plainfield Drive cul-de-sac. When I first saw the subdivision plat, it was a final, phase 1 final. In my review, I went back and looked and discovered that the preliminary was never sent to the Board of Commissioners. It was not sent to the Board of Commissioners because it had some outstanding conditions, which were stormwater control devices needed to be shown on the preliminary, and a driveway permit access needed to be signed, and a letter of acceptance from the water district. So that was never carried to the commissioners. I discovered that, and that's why it's before you now. Somewhere in the discussion, Mr. Price had requested an emergency access easement. They had not installed it at the phase 1 final. But what happened is y'all asked me to send it back to emergency services. They took a look at it. It was reviewed. And they have some comments that they would like for the access easement to be widened a little bit by 5 feet and place some emergency signs at each end, and that they would be satisfied with that. And then also that they would, the fire chief from Elroy would like to make sure that he can get his trucks through it fine. So I would recommend that it be conditionally approved based on those conditions. That was approved by the planning board with that emergency access easement on March the 10th, 2015. So it's back before you for your consideration with the emergency access easement as a preliminary and on the final.
Any comments on that? I am gonna have some comments, but I'm gonna wait till the meeting to actually express those. And then after that, we're gonna have a motion to approve the revised Spring Forest phase 1 final subdivision plat.
That is correct.
Under the consent agenda is applications for disabled veteran property tax exclusions, application for property tax exclusion, application for present use value, an application for elderly and disabled exclusion, and all of those, they have gone through those and all meet the criteria.
That's right.
Okay, any questions on those items? Okay, the next item is to approve a non-primary entitlement approach lighting system. It's a ODALS replacement grant agreement for Wayne Executive Jet Board and the budget amendment.
And the budget amendment. The only thing we need the budget amendment for, we only have to come up with 10%. It's a 90% state grant on it. And Greg is here if you have any questions on that.
That was in our agenda. Does anybody have any questions on that matter? Okay, and then budget amendments. Page 143.
For Wayne, we have $2,865, and this is to appropriate insurance proceeds received on one of the Wayne vehicles. For the detention center, $115,000. This is to cover estimated cost of outsourcing inmates through the remainder of the calendar year. For facility services, $41,783. This is to appropriate funds for a Ford F-350 for facility services, and this will replace a truck that was lost during flooding of Hurricane Matthew. For the health department, $1,100. This is for the Zika-related program, additional funds awarded by NC Division of Public Health. Central Services, $33,174. This is for our unemployment insurance. We are required to maintain a certain percentage of payroll in our account with the state, and so this is to get that account back up to where our percentage needs to be for the year. And then for Wayne Community College, $703,000, $882.02. And these were monies that were unspent at June 30 for projects, and this will be carried forward into the 16-17 year for expenditure. And I've attached a memo behind that budget amendment that details the projects that they will be spending those monies on. And that's all I have for you.
Any questions or comments on the budget amendments? Okay. Under new business, motion to approve Board of Commissioners voting delegate for North Carolina Association of County Commissioners 2017 Legislative Goals Conference. I would assume that everybody's in agreement if we move to have our chairman serve as that voting delegate.
That's what you've normally done.
Okay. All right, next item is a motion to establish a public hearing on January the 3rd, 9:30 a.m. to receive public comments on a request by Cedric Jackson to rezone 1.6 acres in Salisbury from airport to residential agricultural 20.
Yes, sir. It is.
You're back.
All right. It is a family subdivision here that's taking place. It's existing homes on a tract of land the homes were put there prior to the zoning being put in place. So probably back to the late 90s at least. So, but they're requesting that these lots be cut out into 20,000 square feet lot size. The zoning in that place requires 1 acre lot sizes. So it at one time was located within the ACU's area for Seymour Johnson based on the 1993 study. That was the reason for the 1 acre lot size. So we did send this to the base for their review. They have no problems with the density there of 20,000. So this is to set up this public hearing. There are permitted homes on the 3 tracts. They're addressed 1370, 1390, and 1400 Parkstown Road. And this is just east of Parkstown there, and LaGrange Road, just east of LaGrange Road. This tract is going to be a minor subdivision plat. If you approve it, it would need to be signed off on by the planning board. We did get base approval on it. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer.
Okay, any questions, Mr. Crumpler?
Just one, and the planning board recommends moving forward with this?
Yes.
Okay.
The base was good with it, planning board recommended approval. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I think I was on the planning board when this came up years ago,
Yes,
and basically, the line has moved some,
We need
the
to
approach.
adjust our zoning maps to reflect the 2011 ACU study. Our maps still reflect the 1993 study. This zoning was in place. It went all the way into Greene County.
Yeah.
And the flight lines changed and the lines changed.
So the county needs to adjust its line.
Yes.
All right, again, what we're doing here is just establishing the public hearing for January the 3rd. Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, motion, next item is a motion to schedule a Board of Commissioners budget retreat on January the 18th at 8:30 a.m. Mr. Wood.
Mr. Chairman, we typically do our budget retreat in January. I've just put this tentative date to see if everybody was agreeable with it. It was a little difficult with the 3 commissioners who were in the agenda meeting for us to arrive at a date, but we This one worked out for everybody, so we wanted to see if it worked out for everybody else. We wanted to try to have it sometime in the middle of the month. So this would be a Wednesday, I believe it is, and we would hold it at the Goldsboro Event Center. And we have a tentative reservation on that. As you know, we get 6 of those free every year, so this would be no cost to us.
Okay, next item is a motion to approve a resolution designated exempt and non-exempt employees of the County of Wayne retroactive to December the 1st.
Okay, this is, we're revisiting what we did at the last meeting. As y'all know, we were facing a December 1 deadline for the U.S. Department of Labor to put into place their new guidelines on what the salary requirements had to be in order for us to try to get someone exempt from the overtime provisions of the Fair Labor Standards Act. They had jacked it up from $23,660 income to $47,476, which is right at a 100% increase in one fell swoop. What has happened now, as I put in the memo to you, is a number of lawsuits by about 21 states were all consolidated into a suit in the Eastern District of Texas. And so a U.S. District Court in that district ruled that the new regulations were unlawful and granted a nationwide injunction. And as I said, 21 states and some business associations were plaintiffs in the suit. It is not an end to the issue. This is an injunction. And what an injunction does is enjoins the department from enforcing the regulation, but the judge wants to look at it further. So he made when you get a temporary injunction, you're asking for a fast determination of whether there will be irreparable harm if you put it into effect immediately. He ruled there would be, and so he gave him the injunction. And he thought there was a high likelihood the plaintiffs would prevail. So where we're at now is we're kind of in limbo waiting to see what happens. If nothing happens, we go back to what the regulations were. Our recommendation to you is we really hadn't had any of this go into effect yet because it was effective for December 1. So what we're recommending is you simply go back to what we had as of prior to December 1, prior to the last meeting. So we've given you a list of those changes, and we've given you the resolution to make those changes. So basically what this does, and the board wants to add that we would add language in there that it would be, the previous motion is rescinded.
Right, and we just also discovering that you're missing a page in your agenda.
Oh, well.
Missing a page.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully we didn't give too many raises.
Pages 165 and 167. Do you have a 166?
No, we do not.
Well, just leave that.
Okay, we need to get it.
And what? And what?
Modern man.
On the second, on section 1, before section 1, under the now therefore be it resolved, I think you need a section that says that the resolution 2016-31, which is the one you adopted at the last meeting, is adopted on November 15, 2016, is vacated and rescinded.
Will you all make the appropriate changes and have that available for us when we come to that item on the agenda?
And we'll get you that page dismissed.
And if you would have the wording of that motion also, so that someone can make that motion to include all of those rescinds and so forth.
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions on that item? We basically are gonna go back to what we had before we passed the adoption.
Yes, sir.
And
And
then
that the court has now ruled that,
they're holding it in abeyance, and
That's
as
right.
everybody knows, you'll have a new administration on January the 20th. So, we'll wait and see what the Department of Labor comes up with after that, or if they even appeal it at that point.
okay.
Because with the new administration, they may just let it drop. Or they may take it to a lower dollar figure.
All right, and then item 5 has been added, and that is the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners video that we would have. County manager's comments then, Board of Commissioner, committee reports and comments. Do we have a closed session today?
Yes.
So there will be a closed session. And that should conclude our meeting. Is there anything else we need to take up on the agenda meeting? If not, at this point, we are going to go to the appeal that we're running a little late here, and that is the 2016 property tax exemption appeal. Okay.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
What I just passed out to you is just another letter from Mr. Neely, and y'all have that in your agenda packet already. Right behind it is the actual copy of the statute that pertains to what we're dealing with today. Let me ask, is anybody from Highwater Solar here today? Anybody representing them? Okay. As I mentioned in the briefing earlier, Mr. Neely, who is representing this client, said that he would probably not be here today, but he did write a letter on his behalf, his client's behalf, explaining his position. This is a larger than Wayne County issue. There's actually appeals in several counties going on right now. Some have already been completed, some not. Some have been already passed up to the Property Tax Commission in Raleigh. And so evidently this is the first time we're dealing with this. And it's basically an interpretation of what the statute means. Solar equipment is taxed at 20% of the value currently by statute. And it's our interpretation that when it means solar equipment, it means it's in production. And that's the Department of Revenue's position also. The solar company is saying that it should be any equipment, whether it's in production or not, that the statute says it should be exempted, the 80% should be exempted and taxed at 20%, whether it's in production or not. I will briefly tell you, which I did in the briefing, business personal property is listed every year by business owners. That could be any kind of equipment from computers, desks, chairs, or machinery equipment. And what it is, each section of this listing, you report your cost, and then we depreciate it based on the depreciation schedule provided by the state, depending on the age and what kind of equipment it is. There's also another category called CIP, construction in progress. This is for equipment that's on site but is not yet in production. That is where this equipment that they listed in January of 2016 was listed on their listing form as CIP. It was on the ground but not yet in production. So it is our opinion and the State Department of Revenue's opinion that this CIP should be taxed 100% and should not be allowed the 80% reduction until it gets in production, which will be 2017, when they listed 2017. It'll be put in a different category, depreciated, and then we apply the exemption. So that's basically what we're talking about today is, does the exemption apply to equipment that's not yet in production? And again, like I mentioned, this is a multi-county appeal going on, not just this company, but several other companies are appealing this, have been caught with a CIP issue. And I do have Ms. Diane Rathman here today. She's our business personal property lister, and if you have any specific questions about this particular listing, I'd be glad to have her come up.
Okay, have we got any questions? Only question I would have is, have we encountered this situation in prior years?
No, sir. This is the first year of my knowledge of solar equipment. Now, we have CIP listed by all companies, and it's taxed at 100%
But on
value.
solar equipment.
This is the first time this issue has come up to my knowledge. Diana, you too? And like I said, evidently it must be first time in several counties because this issue is going on in several counties this year, and I've not heard of it in the past. Mr. Parker, have you heard of anything?
This is the first year I've heard.
But have in fact, so you're telling me up until this point, there has not been any solar farms under construction as of January the 1st, where they listed those
can't-
solar panels or whatever.
I can't tell you that that's not the case, but it has not been appealed.
That's correct.
It has not been appealed. Now,
Well,
it
then let me
could have happened.
rephrase my question.
Okay.
Have we taxed other solar facilities under construction at 100% in that they had not been connected to generate power?
Not here in Wayne County, to my
This
knowledge.
is the first time that anything has been listed construction in progress.
Okay.
Everything else had already been in production when it was listed.
All right. Are you aware of that occurring in any other county where there was construction in progress as of January the 1st where they taxed them at 100%?
I did not know that, sir. But I feel like if it would have been, it probably would have been appealed prior to this year.
And one last question, and that is, I am understanding you to say that the North Carolina Department of Revenue has interpreted this, that we should be taxing them at 100%, in that the solar farm was not in production.
That is correct, yes, sir.
Yeah, what you've got is the solar industry is challenging the Property Tax Commission's ruling. And so in order to do that, they have to begin an appeal process in several counties, and then they'll take that up to the Property Tax Commission. So whatever ruling you make will be appealed,
Okay.
because they want it
Makes us-
statewide.
Makes us feel real important. In other words, whatever decision you make, we're gonna appeal it anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it goes against them, they're going to appeal.
Okay.
Because they want it on the record at the Property Tax Commission, because
Sure.
then it has statewide precedence on other cases.
Sure, Commissioner Mayor.
Is it possible that if the solar company had not reported it this way, would we have known about it? In other words-
If they'd have reported it as in production in the equipment category, it would have been not a question, and they would have basically got we would appreciate it, and they would have got their reduction.
Yeah.
Because it would have been in process.
But I guess the follow-up is that, do they have to report it?
Yes, sir. They
Okay,
do.
is there a way we would know if they didn't report it?
Well, we do get permits when the solar farms are put in place, and we do pass those to Ms. Rouse, and she does audit those, yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
That was the last question.
Cool.
Are they going to all counties in the state, or just going to
Just
the
the
ones
ones where they have
who are
cases.
high-density solar farms?
Really
like
just the
Wayne
ones where they have cases, because it had to be construction in progress as of January 1.
It's just the ones that they were not complete, but the equipment was on site. It's just those counties that have that
Okay.
issue.
And the 100% that is being taxed is what was there on January 1st, not what's there today.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
what was there. And so, but the general public probably needs to know that if it had been in, they would have been taxed only at 20%.
Right.
Correct. All right, any other questions? All right, then at that point, we will need a motion to either approve or deny the high water solar tax exemption appeal.
Do that now,
Would somebody like to make that motion?
I will do so. I'll make the motion to deny the high water solar one LLC 2016 property tax exemption appeal.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? Not, all those in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, our next order of business is our organization. Do you want a break?
I do, for just a short minute.
No, No, I think we'd have to call the order first. Do we go into our meeting at this point, or do we take a break, or what?
Do we take a break? Do we take a break?
We need to take a break. All right, we're gonna take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 9 o'clock.